There aren't a lot of reviews on YouTube about these Bowers & Wilkins PX8, and there aren't any comparisons yet to the Focal Bathys. This is going to be just sound. If you're buying headphones at this price, even if they're wireless, I think you're buying for the sound. So I want to tell you a bit about the character of these headphones, the genres that they work with. So I'm going to do some in-depth comparisons with tracks from rock music, kind of classic rock, electronic, rap, classical, just a variety of things to give you, hopefully, it's the best way I can think of giving you an idea of how these two sound. At the end, I'll talk a bit about ANC and transparency. But yeah, so to start off with, just an idea of how I'm testing them. Firstly, I got the Bathys as a Focal fanboy, and these are kind of my favorite headphones in the world, Stellias. I had no choice but to give these a crack. So my methodology is I'll spend, in this case anyway, I don't have a general one for headphones. I spent 2 days with these, just enjoying them, using them for everything, taking them on the train, taking them on a walk, listening to them at my desk, watching a TV show, whatever it is. I use the Bathys for everything for a couple of days. So clocked in at least 10 hours of listening in those 2 days. And then I listened to these for 2 days straight. Same deal, exactly the same, everything, not listening to any other audio equipment. And then for 2 more days, I listened to just both of them. I would probably spend more time prepping for this review, but to be honest, I think I've got a really good idea of how the differences between them now. I've definitely clocked up enough hours because it was over a weekend, so I was listening to a lot of music. And I know a lot of people are buying these right now, so I wanted to put the video out because I think it's useful. I was a bit annoyed there was so little on the PX8, and I was certainly annoyed that there wasn't really anything comparing them. Cool. So let's get in with... So the first couple of songs I want to talk about, I want to do a couple of Wolf Alice songs. So this is a more classic rock band. You've got a couple of guitars, you've got a drummer, you've got a vocalist and a bassist. These guys present music very differently, and it's least evident on rock how different they are. Still, you notice. On the Bathys, you get this spacious feeling. It's almost like the instruments are spread out across space, and you can very clearly and distinctly say, there's guitar one, there's the bass, there's the singer, etc. But it's obviously not like a stage, because the way Focal's image is quite holographic, so it's spherical, but the things are all split up. And immediately you go, I've not heard an ANC headphone like this. I just had the AirPods Max, which I sent off. They can't do anything close to what these guys are doing. And it's very clean. The sound is clean and clear. In that respect, it's great. Meanwhile, on the PX8, you're going to get a more compact sound. The way sound is presented is almost like a pair of speakers. I think that's, if you look inside the ear cups, there's like an angle. The driver's been angled, but I think it is on the Bathys too, but for whatever reason, they made it so these guys make it feel like the sound is coming from a stage in front of you. It's more compact. Straight away, you feel more intimate with these headphones. But it's also meatier and more engaging emotionally. So if you listen to the song Giant Peach by Wolf Alice, it has this very strong opening riff. I think the first minute of the song is just guitar and drums. And it's a high energy riff. On the PX8, it just feels a lot more like it's pulling you along. The mid-range is a bit thicker. Guitars have a lot more kind of bite and grunt, whereas on this they feel very clear, but they don't have as much weight. Then the bass, so the drums, sound way more impactful on the PX8. The bass on this is quite tight, but it is a little bit feeble. And on the PX8, it's not like the bass for me was overblown on this track. It didn't bleed into the mids. It didn't affect the mids at all. The mids were still fuller on this than this, in my opinion, for the guitar. But the bass is a lot stronger. It's definitely dialed up compared to these, but not, with a lack of taste. It's nowhere near something like I had Momentum 3s. That bass was too much. It's actually really nicely done. So that's kind of the difference you get in these songs. With this, you're getting space, air around the instruments, separation, very nice separation. Details are highlighted on this. So small details in the song are going to pop out. It's not like they're not on the PX8, but they're highlighted on this. And I mean the small details, the things that you don't normally pay attention to, the ambient parts of the song. Overall, for Wolf Alice, I much prefer these. For rock, I want a high energy sound. I want guitars to have a lot of bite. I want a lot of thickness in the mid-range for those vocals and those guitars, and these provided that, and just, to me, it was more exciting. Although a few of the songs I really did like. I thoroughly enjoyed it on the Bathys as well. It was a great presentation. It was very clean. It was really nice. So I tried, these are only a few of the tracks. I've tried way more. I just don't want to make the video too long. I'm going to say, overall, if you listen to rock and you like a good, thick electric guitar, which I do, that's the only instrument I play. So it's quite important to me. I prefer this for that. I just think it was a thicker, nicer tone on the electric guitars. So let's move on to some electronic music. This is where the presentation differences of these two headphones becomes a lot more obvious, and it becomes a lot more difficult. So some of these songs I had to go over parts 5 or 6 times because I really wanted to nail down the differences. So I listened to a bit of Grimes. My Name is Dark. So this is a track with a lot of vocal effects and a lot of things going around. The thing you notice on these straight away is it's wicked. It's great what they do with the effects. These remind me more of like a Stellia or the Clears for electronic music. They're different. They're a different type of sound. They're a bit more laid back than those two, definitely more laid back, especially in the treble area. And in the bass, way more laid back than the Stellia. But the way details pop out and move across the soundscape is just awesome on the Bathys. I really was impressed with it for an ANC headphone. On the PX8, you don't get that same thing. The same details appear, but they don't pan in the same level of clarity. They don't kind of wow you in that way. The other thing, on My Name is Dark, there's a lot of there's a lot of bass lines going on, and bass is electronic music, and again, it's fuller on this. There are points where there's a really cool bass line playing My Name is Dark, and it's fuller and cooler on the PX8, I think. Overall, though, I think I prefer the Bathys for this song. Not by a huge amount, but I did like the imaging it did. Another Grimes song, Flesh Without Blood. Very similar story. The electronic effects sound wicked on these. The imaging's really nice. The clarity works great. It's very exciting. On the PX8, what I notice, there's some guitar sections on this song, and they sound fuller and more engaging on this. I like the vocals a bit more on this song on the PX8 as well. they're a bit more engaging, feel a bit more detailed. This was close, but I think overall I was engaged more on the PX8 because of that thicker sound. The bass and the guitar and some of the effects just sound a bit thicker due to the mid-range being a bit more, I don't know what it is about these in the mid-range, but it's just a bit nicer for me. But it was a close one on that song. Then I listened to Galvanize by the Chemical Brothers. This was the first song that I thought was just all out, easily better on one of these headphones, and it was the PX8. This song is all about that intro, and it's a very, I mean, go listen to it if you like. The first 30 seconds, this song is just straight out of the gate, super engaging, super heavy. There's like a periodic instrumental at the beginning. I found it more forceful and convincing on the PX8. The bass that kicks in around 18 seconds is way more authoritative and deep on the PX8. On this, that intro, what should be one of the most epic openings to a song, just sounds a little bit feeble. I've listened to this song a lot I've listened to it on all my headphones, so I have an idea of what I like about that song. And I heard it live a couple of months ago, and I'll be honest, I don't think that did it justice. I think the bass was a little bit too polite, and things were a bit too distant. It didn't get in your face enough and grab you in the way this did. So a big win for me on that one, for the PX8. So electronic music, it's a bit of a divide. You love really cool imaging, little effects, Bathys all the way. You love kind of the emotional engagement or the bass, or a thicker sound. Then I'd say PX8. Vocals, I listened to Skyfall by Adele. The vocals on these two are really interesting. They're different. And we're going to get later to my girlfriend who tested both. And she knows her stuff when it comes to voices. She was a professional voice actress. And she does notice the difference on these as well in vocals. So Adele's voice sounds a bit... On these, it sounds a little bit like you're watching it and you're like, wow, that's a really clear vocal. That's really like nice and clean. And on this, it's like, wow, that's engaging me. It's thick, it's a human, it's full of emotion, it's colorful. On these, it's a little bit more distant and a little bit flatter. On these, it feels a bit more detailed and fuller. There was one point in the song where both headphones got slightly harsh on one of the oh no, wait, sorry, that was the next track. Yeah, and I think because this had a more intimate presentation and with the way this song goes, it's quite an emotional song. I just felt a lot more engaged on the PX8. And the Bathys is kind of analytic, more kind of observer feeling I get with it, which didn't work as well. Then I listened to another vocal track, Blue Jeans by Lana Del Rey. I really liked how the Bathys went with some of the details. A lot of Lana Del Rey's productions have interesting details in the song, and the details to jump out more on the Bathys. The details are still there here, yet again. Once again, with the vocal, these were sweeter, warmer, and just a bit more like, that feels more like a person for some reason. Both of them got harsh on the vocal at some point, so I thought I'll listen to it on the Stellia to see what's going on, and it wasn't harsh on the Stellia. There's one part of the whole song. I don't know why. But yeah, I preferred the PX8 a little bit for this song, but both were really cool. Then I listened to another vocal kind of, but very instrumentally heavy song as well, Innocence by Aurora. Aurora is a wonderful Norwegian singer and a really good test for vocals because she is phenomenally skilled. So on this, there's a lot of kind of there's a big transition in this song quite early on, I think around the minute mark or something. And that transition is just so much more oomph behind it on this headphone. compared to the Bathys, which again sounds a little bit kind of weaker for some reason. The vocal in the opening part it's 40 seconds where that transition is. The vocal on this was a lot more open at the beginning. It sounds like you're just kind of singing into your ear, whereas on this it feels a little bit more distant and a little bit thinner. There's another part in the song where there's after the transition, the vocal continues with a new instrumental, and the Bathys vocal pushes back a little bit and it highlights the instrumental a bit. And it doesn't feel quite right to do that. And on the PX8, actually, it feels more appropriate where those two things have a kind of similar standing. This is something I will say about focal headphones in general that I've noticed. Particularly, I had the Celestee and the Stellia. They sometimes, it's a kind of, it's not necessarily a fault because it works so well in some songs, like some of the electronic music, but they bring certain things right into your face, instrumentals or details, which is wicked on one level because you're like, oh, I've never heard the song like this, or this is so exciting. But on another level, it's like, is this appropriate for this song right now? And this was one of those cases where I was like, it isn't. I think the vocal should be more forward than the instrumental. And that is the kind of double-edged sword of the vocals. They highlight detail, but sometimes inappropriately. Sometimes the song should be, the vocals, I think, are being the focus, or the guitar, and then the other things fall back a bit and support it. You don't get that as much with these. The details kind of have a similar, whereas the PX8 actually do that a lot more, where they seem to give things a relative importance. I really prefer the PX8 for this song by Aurora. Like, really. I thought it was just a lot more fun and engaging. The transition was just a better, to me, it was just a lot better. I felt more like I was observing the music on the Bathys. So I tried a few classical songs on both of them, one from someone recommended on Headfi, and Moonlight Sonata, quite an intense test. I think the timbre of the PX8 is a bit better for classical music. It's a bit sweeter and it's a bit smoother and softer. I just found that more enjoyable. I think the grandness of classical music, the kind of expansiveness of listening to an orchestra is a bit better portrayed on these. The space between the instruments, the kind of feeling that everything's coming around you in a big hall, I think is better portrayed on these. I think the quality of things like pianos, flutes, brass sounds more colourful and kind of alive on these. So that's a tough one, right? I prefer the structure of the song on these, but I prefer the texture of the song on these. If that makes sense. Ultimately, I think I prefer the PX8 for classical, just because that's a bit more important to me, the timbre and than how the tone of the instrument. But I did think this was really great for it as well. So I'd had a little test. My girlfriend spotted these, and she really liked the look of them, so she picked them up and listened to them. Now, in comparing these, you've got to understand I've been a bit surprised. I've been a bit taken aback. I've been a bit like, these were not my expectations. I'm a focal guy, so that's what I listen to. This is my baby. I listen to this every night. So when I saw these two announced, there's even posts I made on the Head5 forums, if you ever go on those, saying I think these Bathys will be miles ahead of the Bowers & Wilkins. These have the driver of a clear MG in them, or a Celestee. These are a proper high-end driver. But I was taken aback, and after the 6 days are up, I prefer these. And it's not a small amount, I really prefer these. These are I love these. They're so much fun. And they're a headphone I could happily have alongside the other guy, the Clear and the Stellia, because they provide something those don't. They provide something new, a kind of fresh look at the music, which is really fun. Anyway, I thought maybe this is just one of those weird cases where these somehow tickle some special place in my brain, which they won't on other people. And I've just found a little match for me. So when my girlfriend picked them up, I was like, perfect. I'm going to get her to compare them. I haven't told her about what I'm doing. She just came over and saw them. And I haven't told her what I think either. So she had a listen on these. I said, what do you think? She said, I really like them. They're great. They're a lot of fun. And she was like, they feel really like engaging. I want to dance, was basically what she said. Those were her words. So I said, can you do a comparison for me between these? I was like, I'm trying to make up my mind, what I like more. So I gave her both of these, and she listened to the song Run Boy Run by Woodkid. I don't really know it, but I had to listen to it. It's a cool song. And I've got quotes of what she said when she was listening to both of them and kind of swapping between them, etc. She said, on the Bathys, the voice is, on this one, the voice is further away. It is good though. And then she said, remember, she's listened to the song fully on the PX8 now, so she's doing a comparison in a way. It's too sharp, it's not hitting my nerves in the same way about the Bathys. Then she said, on the vocals, everything is on the same level. Does that make sense? The instruments are the same volume, which isn't how it should be, I think. On the Bowers and Wilkins, the singer is in the center and the instruments elsewhere. I don't know, it sounds more like a concert. I think these ones would be good for the song you showed me. I showed her an electronic music song called by Lana. And then she said, I like the Bowers ones a lot more. They sound more alive. Now, I know that's pretty similar to what I said, so maybe we've got similar ears. But like I said, I did not prompt her. I did not give her any of my conclusions here, okay? She knows I like these ones, though, the vocals a lot. She isn't a complete noob. She has a really good... I'm not saying this to qualify or say she's some kind of authority on this, and nobody is. But I'm saying, she's got a good ear. She used to be a singer in a band for quite a long time. Was a professional voice actress. She has a much better musical ear than I do. So when I'm playing guitar, I might be learning something by ear, I will enlist her help. One of the best musical imaginations I've ever encountered in a human, and it really bothers me she doesn't play an instrument. But what I'm saying is she's not just someone who listens to beats. She has a good ear for things and how she thinks they should sound, at least from her taste. It's not just going off her gut. So anyway, take that for what it's worth. Probably not too much, but there you go. They're very different headphones. The Bathys, clear, separated, exciting for electronic music, a little feeble in the bass, a little distant on the vocals, or a little lacking in kind of humanness. PX8, very strong mid-range, fantastic vocals and guitar, very natural sounding, very good timbre, very fun bass, but not overblown, doesn't impeach on the mids at all. As detailed as the Bathys, smaller stage than the Bathys. I think a better overall presentation in the way it emphasizes certain things. I think it feels more appropriate. That's the sound conclusion. I think personally, for what I want in an ANC headphone, I would prefer this. I want something that engages me emotionally, that has a lot of energy, that has a lot of emotion. Because I'm on the go, I don't really care if the cello is up there and this is over. That's nice, that's great when you're on a desk. But if it's at the expense of other things, like the grunt of a song, like the core of a song, like the thickness of vocals and things like that, then I'm not interested. So I think when you're on the go, these are more important qualities. But more importantly, I just think overall, I personally prefer the sound of these a significant margin. I think the thing is with, you can speculate what Focal were doing with these. I think they do sound great, and they sound a lot better than the AirPods Max, which is probably what they're comparing them to. But they do sound very different to something like the Clear. The Clear are much higher energy than these. There's a lot more energy in the treble. There's a lot more slam in the bass. I like, they're great. The clears are great. Everyone knows they're great. But they've gone for a different sound signature. They've gone for something a little bit more laid back. Now, the problem with that is I think Vocal's strong point is the high energy kind of, engagement that their headphones bring. And when you strip that back, the things like the timbre problem, the kind of how natural the sound is in the vocals and the instruments, those start to become more of an issue because you don't have the other strengths. Now, I've always had a bit of an issue with that vocal sound, which is, I don't think vocals, even on the Stellia, vocals sometimes sound a bit like, that wasn't that sounded a little bit harsh, but you forgive it because the other quality is so good. When you dial those other qualities back, I think the issues become a bit more apparent and can be more of a deal breaker maybe. So yeah, I think that's what this is. It's a dialed back vocal. Still got great technical qualities. As an on the go headphone, I don't know. £700 is a lot of money. There are some other comfort things I had where look at the thickness of the headband. See that? This headband did give me a bit of trouble after like an hour, so that wasn't great. I need to compare the transparency, but the ANC on the PX8 is better than on the Bathys by a bit, actually. It's quite good ANC. The transparency on this is very good. I've tested that in isolation. I'm not sure if it's better than this, but these are getting closer to AirPods Max than I expected in terms of transparency. I can hear pretty much everything completely clearly, which is, that's fantastic, to be honest. And the ANC is really good. I wish I still had the AirPods Max here. In essence, I sold my AirPods Max, shipped them off last week because I've got these MW65s, which I liked more as an ANC headphone. I thought they sounded better than the AirPods Max. But then these guys came out, and I compared them to these, and these are, they're not a competition for these two. So I don't have them, but I am tremendously impressed by the PX8, like way more than I expected. The fact the sound is this good on a wireless headphone, and the features are this good, that's great. Oh, I forgot to mention, I tested both of them wirelessly without EQ. I did try a couple of EQs on this that people posted online. I didn't think they were that good. I think maybe there'll be some better ones and I'll try it out. But I didn't bother with either on both, as I don't think many users will. Anyway, yeah, conclusion, both brilliant, worth £700. Difficult. You could buy an Stellia and a discounted, you can get AirPods Max used. You could have both of those. So that's a tough one. These are expensive. These are expensive too, not as expensive, but they legitimately, to me, justify it. I don't still have the Focal Celeste or something, but I don't know if those sound much better than these, to be honest, in my memory. These just, and by better I mean, maybe technically in some areas they're better, but is something you want to listen to and think, wow, this makes the music so good. Yeah, super impressed by these, like completely out of nowhere from Bowers and Wilkins. Yeah, great headphone. I recommend trying both if you can. If you do try both, avoid going to the store and just putting them on for 10 minutes. That really doesn't do either of them justice. If you can, spend a day with each and use the returns policy. I think that's why it's there. And at this price, you really should, because it's a huge premium for an ANC headphone. But yeah, that's my take. Look forward to discussion in the comments, maybe some talk about EQ of Bathys. I just hope this is useful for some